So, good morning, Sir Alder Reyes. So, in this video, but first, I am JR Mikatuan from Section Antares, BSMT2 Section Antares. So, in this video, I'm going to explain my answer about the 10 performance standards for radar equipment as per resolutions MEC 192 close parenthesis 79. So, my 10 performance standard for radar equipment is the frequency spectrum, radar sensor requirements, radar range and bearing accuracy. The fourth is detection and clutter condition. 5 is gain and anti-clutter functions. 6 is signal processing. The 7 is bearing scale. The 8 is heading line. The 9 is electronic bearing lines or EBLS. And the number 10 is user cursor. So, but first, we need to explain this all 10 performance standards. So, number 1 is frequency spectrum. So, frequency spectrum is a radar, or the radar should transmit within the confines of the ITU allocated bands for maritime radar, and it meets the requirements of radio regulations and applicable ITUR recommendations. So it means this frequency spectrum requires ITU allocated bands for that the radar can transmit confines ITU. And then number 2 is the radar sensor requirements. So radar sensor requirements has radar systems of both X and S bands are covered in these performance standards. So we discuss or told the title radar sensor requirements. So our requirements are the both X and S bands. So their performance standards is X bands have a 9.2 to 9.5 gigahertz. It will have a high discrimination, good sensitivity, and tracking performance. And the S band has only 2.9 to 3.1 gigahertz to ensure the target detection and tracking capabilities are maintained in varying and adverse conditions, which is the fog, the rain, and the sea clutter. And then my number three performance standard is the radar range and bearing accuracy. So the radar system have a range and bearing accuracy requirements that should the range has within 30 meters or a 1% of the range scale in use, whichever is greater, and the bearing is have within the 1 degree. That was the equivalent of range and bearing. And then the fourth performance standard of radar equipment is the detection in clutter condition. So detection in clutter condition, it have a performance limitation caused by typical precipitation and sea clutter conditions. It will result in a reduction of target detection capabilities relative to those defined in detection of close range and detection in close range within the shorelines, solo ship with a small vessels or typical navigation buoy. So detection and clutter condition, it means the reader must have detection of a clutter. It when the clutter condition, it means if have like disaster, like have strong winds that can make the sea wave pass, or have a rain, just like that, rain that cause the water have a movement, like the if we told in Bisaya, patak sa mga tulo ana, o mga murag ining hagbong sa tubig na it will detect the sensor to the sea. And my 5 or fifth performance standard for radar equipment is the gain and anti-clutter functions. So, gain and anti-clutter functions, it means that should be provided as far as possible for a radar system for adequate reduction of unwanted echoes or wavelengths, including sea clutter, rain, and other forms of precipitation, clouds, sunstorms, and the other parts that can detect in the radar. And gain clutter has a gain control function should be provided to set the system gain or signal threshold level. It is effective manual or automatic anti-clutter functions should be have in the radar. It is the radar must have a combination of automatic and a manual anti-clutter functions that because it will very useful, because if the one manual can't detect or the sea clutter or maybe rain or sandstorm, we will use the automatic so that it can detect automatically to the radar system. And then there should be a clear and permanent indication. So the radar must have a clear and permanent indication of the status for seeing the level of for gain and all anti-clutter control functions. And for the sixth performance standard for my answer is the signal processing. So signal processing, it means that it should be available to enhance the target presentation on the display. So it means this signal processing, it can be enhanced or to clear the radar system if there have a sea clutter or what that will that can be seen clearly, have to indicate what is the true movement of the radar, just like the manual gain and anti-clutter. So for seeing them of clear and enhanced display, so we have signal processing, so that the picture of our radar system is clearly. The effective of signal processing is have a picture update period should be adequate with a minimum of latency to ensure that the target detection requires are met. The signal processing is a picture or radar or the picture of the radar system that that can be seen updated in a smooth and continuous manner. The equipment manual should explain the basic concept, features, and limitation of any signal processing. So it means that the signal processing can be used for seeing the radar system smooth and clear presentation on the display of the radar system. And my seventh 10 performance standard for radar equipment is the bearing scale. So bearing scale is around the periphery of the operational display area should be provided. It means the bearing scale should indicate the bearing as seen from the consistent common reference point. So it means the radar have a bearing scale that indicate the movement or the bezels in the radar. It can indicate the direction of north to west or what. It will indicate their bearing. What is the bearing of this? Maybe the bezel is on latitude of 31 degrees, have a latitude of a longitude of 125 degrees and 50 minutes, just like that. So it indicates the bearing scale. It will indicate to the radar automatically. It display operational display area. It indicate their bearing and the bearing of the it indicate the bearing of the bezel from the radar system, automatically display. And the bearing scale should be outside of the operational display area. It should be numbered at least 30 degrees deviation and have marks of at least 5 degrees. The 5 degrees and 10 degrees deviation marks should be clearly distinguishable from each other. 1 degree deviation marks may be presented where they are clearly distinguishable from each other. And my 10th performance of the radar equipment is the heading line. So the radar system or the radar have a heading line. So heading line, it means true north. The heading is north. So so the radar may not have a heading line of east, west, or south. It will head to the north. It have a heading line is a graphic line from that consistent common reference point to the bearing scale should indicate from heading of the ship. So the heading of the ship is where they heading, the north or northwest, southwest, or northeast, northwest or northeast. The heading line is where the bezel going on or where they going heading. Heading line or the electronic means that should be provided to align the heading line within 0.1 degree. If there is more than one radar antenna, the heading skew or heading or bearing offset should be retained and automatically applied when each radar antenna is selected. And my 9th performance standard of radar equipment is the electronic bearing line. So electronic bearing line or the ABLS is have at least 2 electronic bearing lines that should be provided to measure the bearing of any point object within the operational display area with a maximum of system error of 1 degree at the periphery of the display. The electronic bearing lines should be capable of measurement relative to the ship heading and relative to the true north. True north means where the head focus to the heading of true north. There should be a clear indication of the bearing reference. Where is true bearing. Electronic bearing line, it should be possible to move from the consistent common reference point to any point within the operational display area and to reset the ABL to the consistent common reference point by a fast and simple action. It should be possible to fix the ABL origin or to move the ABL origin at the velocity of own ship. ABL means should be provided to ensure that the user is able to position the ABL smoothly either direction or with an incremental adjustment adequate to maintain the system measurement accuracy required. So it means the ABL or the active ABL should have a numerical readout with a resolution adequate to maintain the system measurement accuracy requirements. So my last 10 performance standard for a radar equipment is the user cursor. So user cursor should be provided to enable a fast and concise. Concise means to designate any position of the operational display area, or it means user cursor is very function or most functional to the radar because it indicates where the designated of a bezel on the radar. It can locate the bezel from what designated area or a position of the latitude and then longitude, and then it continuous readout to provide the range and the bearing that measured from the consistent common reference point. So it means the user cursor is used to locate the range and bearing of the bezel, and the cursor position presented either alternatively or simultaneously, and the cursor should provide the means to select and deselect targets, graphics, or objects within the operational display area on the radar. In addition, the cursor may be used to select modes, functions, vary parameters, and control menus outside of the operational display area. The accuracy of the range and bearing of the bearing measurements provided by the cursor should meet the relevant requirements from BRM and ABL. So that was my 10 performance standard for radar equipment as per resolution MAC 91279. That's all, sir. Thank you.